Hey folks, Studio here. So I'm going to keep this brief because we got a lot of cool things going on. Part 2, the intro will have a bit more info. But I just want to say I have some big news coming up next week. And right now I hope you guys are enjoying IPL 4. But, time for a replay. Let's go into the daily. Okay, so first things first, let's see who's playing who. We got X, Jake Ox on Morgana, Smoked Ust on Twisted Fate, Hitaki on Jarvan IV, Meduzwao M on Ashe, Function Roost on Caitlyn, Simple Thoughts on Vayne, J A Star on Lux, Skies Fusion on Lulu, Kika 7 on Warwick, Kika on Tryndamere. And there is no smite. There is no smite in this game. There are no junglers this game. This is one of those weird games where both teams end up not having a jungler. Now, these are really common while leveling up or while playing. But let's look at Morgana's stats. She has the utility MP5 masteries. She has a lot of ability power. That has to be Quince, the mastery, and blues. And she has no defenses. Her armor and MR are both blue. There is no indication she has runes or masteries buffing those. And that's really risky. What's going to happen is, if she can sustain well and just kind of play the sustaining Morgana game where you toss down Tormented Soil, that'll work really, really well. That's what Morgana can do amazingly well. But if she has trouble reaching that point, she has no defenses. And later on in the game, she's going to be very, very easy to focus because she has no defense aside from Black Shield. She's also against a Vayne mid. Vayne is one of those characters that is just kind of good against Morgana. Morgana can always kill just about anybody. If you land a binding, you can follow it up with so much damage. But Vayne can actually do a lot early on. She doesn't have to worry about Black Shield. And they will reach a point where both of them can kind of kill each other, but the harass early on is going to be very strong from Vayne. And Tormented Soul is not at a point where you can just kind of lay it down, farm creep waves, and forget. Now, Morgana has a very interesting playstyle, and you want to remember it. She pokes from far away. If she lands a Q, you follow up very, very hard. And she also has to be very, very ballsy in team fights by going in with her ult, and eventually Zhonya's ing. That is a weird verb. Now, just at a basic level, let's talk about last hits. You gotta get used to them, you gotta get good at them. Morgana has a bad attack animation and low range, but she has very high damage. You want to try and get as many last hits as you can. Gotta practice it, because every time you miss a last hit, that's you giving up a little bit of advantage for no real reason. Now, as you can see, even when Morgana lands a binding, it's not a lot, and she's not following it up with Tormented Soil. Now, if mana was a problem, I'd normally say it's okay, but mana isn't. She's almost full. She can use that extra mana to be aggressive. If you're at full mana and you have a lot of MP5, go ahead, blow a spell. Just use it. As long as that cooldown doesn't put you at risk, it's okay to apply pressure and use skills like that. Also, when you last hit, you want to make sure you get, once again, as many as possible, but if creeps are killing one creep, then make sure you kill the ones that it's killing, so you can follow the creeps, pretend they're a guidance system. And you can go for extra creeps that they're not focusing, but if you do, make sure you hit the ones that the creeps are focusing so they don't kill them. And right there, what I slowed down was to show that Morgana still followed up on a missed binding. And Morgana doesn't need to do that. Morgana doesn't need to take these risks. She has such good skills, you can just keep waiting for these openings to pop up. Also to note, Morgana is maxing out her Q first. Now, once again, back to the role that Morgana plays. Is she an incredibly skill shot based character? Yes. But she does have the option to very passively farm, and if you're going to max Q first, this means you're going for a poke war or going for a lot of gank aggression where you just want to burst someone down instantly. Now, skill orders are something that I think can change quite a bit on champions, but in this case, you gotta think about why you're doing something different. Why are you maxing the skill first? Why would you max binding on Morgana? Once again, to gank, but she's not going to be able to gank, she's not going to be able to clear the creep waves quickly enough to actually gank without losing a lot of CS, and relying on the poke for in lane isn't a good idea, because you could always land a binding and follow up with Tormented Soil anyways. Tormented Soil does amazingly high damage, it scales super well, and it's a very scary spell. And you gotta also question your movements. In that case, Jake went to the side, and I don't know why. It might have been to scout for a general gank, but he would have died if they had gank. It really didn't accomplish anything. He does do something that I like. He does wait to go back until he can afford the items he wants. So he's going to go back after these creeps die, and it is a fine time to go back. The lane is not pushing out. He's not going to miss a lot of CS. I mean, it's balanced, so it's not the best time, but it's not like he's missing a giant wave or like 40 creeps. But he goes back, he buys 2 Dorans, and he gets some potions. So he's being cautious. He knows he might get harassed a bit and not be able to sustain. And without Tormented Soil, he can't sustain particularly well. And the 2 Doran's rings, you know, lets him spam. He doesn't have a jungler to give him blue buff. And it takes Morgana quite a while to do it on her own, especially with a low level Tormented Soil. Really, the Tormented Soil is a big thing. You want to get more points in it, just so you can go ahead, clear a creep wave without any effort. And if you land a binding, you can follow it up with a Tormented Soil. I'm not sure about the exact levels. I think different people have different opinions. Some people say take it to 3. I've seen some people say take it to 5. Now, interestingly, right there you can see that the binding still has a good use. Black Shield doesn't. It doesn't really stop anything Vayne does, but the binding still does a ton of damage. Even if she lands it and doesn't get any follow-up, that's still a decent nuke right there. Now, look at Morgana's damage. She does 350 from Soul Shackle, 300 from Dark Binding, and 38 a second. So Jakex does not follow up. He does not use his ult. He's not using his fullest potential. Right there, he should have immediately gone back in, pressed the ult button, and just blown everything. Because getting that early kill on Vayne is going to be a lot more pressure, and he can just keep doing this thing where he lands a binding and kills her. It's not going to stop unless she buys a lot of Dorans. And even then, it still might not stop. Now, I like this play. I like the ingenuity you see at lower elos. Look at this amazingly cool binding. Unfortunately, he does what he should have done earlier, but that nets him a kill. And that's awesome as hell to sneak around like that. It does cost him his flash, though. That is the big issue. And that is something I think is a good thing and a bad thing. Because if they had a ward there, that gank never would have succeeded. It might have put himself in a bad position, actually. And he could have died. At the same time, that was such a unique and awesome way to gank that it would catch anybody by surprise. I mean, no one's going to expect the Morgana binding through Wraiths from that position. Now, note that Ashe Caitlyn bottom is doing fine. Twisted Fate, Twisted Fate Jarvan is not doing quite as well. That Tryndamere is getting very, very scary, and Tryndamere is very scary while farmed. And this is where I think a lot of people have trouble, especially as a mid lane. Jake does not really roam quite a bit. He will poke out every now and then, but it's not something he tries to do. And you want to have your goals, you want to have your reason for doing things. Is Jake going to be able to kill Vayne consistently? Maybe. But 1 CC in any of those lanes should land a kill on anybody except Tryndamere. That's just because Tryndamere is incredibly hard to kill. Here he is up top 2v1ing Twisted Fate Jarvan, which actually has a lot of CC. And bot lane is Ashe alone because Caitlyn roamed mid. But he's going to go for that gank again. Now right there, he revealed where he was. Vayne saw the binding, and you gotta use this information. You'll watch Vayne, she's playing very, very defensively. And then once he realizes that Morgana is still there, he just goes for that kill. The function of Roost sadly does not survive. And the question is, well, was it Caitlyn's fault? Kinda. I mean, she did die to Vayne, she was very caught out of position. But at the same time, was Morgana ever going to be able to do something there? And people can do a lot of dumb things, but that Vayne saw that Morgana was still there, the Tormented Soil went down, and she was in vision of the tower. She knew that if she went through that tower, she would die, and that Vayne could kill Caitlyn. Now this gank is very interesting too. I think a lot of people don't have enough confidence with the characters they play. Jake, he plays very, very cautiously, and Morgana is someone who can play cautiously, but only when you're trying to go for catches. In a case like that where you're going for a gank, go ahead, walk into the enemy team, let them know that you're there to kill them. The combo right there would have just melted anybody. She didn't have a lot of mana, but one ult is a ton of damage. Also note the Blasting Wand. Morgana is going for a death cap. Now, item builds are not static. That's something I definitely think. And what is Morgana gonna do with the death cap in this case? And once again, I love these ganks. Boop. What will Morgana do with her item build? Now, when you build items, I want you to think about what you're trying to accomplish. In this case, Morgana wants to deal a lot of damage and go for kills and blow people up. But that Tryndamere is going to be a problem. Morgana's very squishy. She has no defensive runes. She has no defensive items besides HP from Doran's ring. And that Tryndamere isn't being stopped. They don't have anyone to really protect Morgana except Jarvan. And Jarvan's CC is fairly limited. It's that rage cage that Morgana wants to be in, and it doesn't make sense for Jarvan to really protect her in it. Now, once again, I feel that Jake has this problem of playing very passively. Like right here, he goes around the very, very long way to get to this fight. And he does put himself in a good position, but it's happened so late that Vayne will kill Caitlyn. And he does get the kill on Wick. He is going to get the kill on Vayne. That is great, but it could have been better. And that's what you always want to go for, what could have been better. And once again, this confidence not coming into play. He's not going for these blind skill shots. Binding is up. He waits for the flash to get close so he can land it more comfortably. But by the time he's already been juked, Lulu has W'd away. I love that exchange. Just two people getting caught out of position, 2 deaths. Just kind of sweeping that up. But with the characters you play, learn what they can do, learn what they can't do. Experiment a lot, get your ass kicked. Now, that's weird. It's weird to say that. But when I try a new character, I do lots of really dumb things. And it's me going, well, can I do it? Because if you can do these dumb things and get away with it and it's successful, then keep doing dumb things until you can find that one stupid risky move that is just too far out there for you. Now, I don't recommend doing this all the time. If you are doing risky things and it's not working, stop. But learning these risky moves, learning these difficult decisions is really important. Right there, Morgana is just playing so passively. And Morgana, like I said, she can, but when you're going for picks, when you're in a team fight, you gotta be in there. You gotta be in their team, black shield up, waiting to kill everybody. And if you're not putting yourself as an initiator and there's no one else to do it for you, or no one who will do it because, solo queue is not reliable, then you can really set your team back and yourself. But he's going to go back by that large rod, and look at his HP. Only 1600, and he goes back at a time when he might have been able to support with a binding. There's a big team fight going on. He kind of saw it, but surprisingly, no one dies. They both just kind of rush at each other. Flashes are used, escapes are used. Jarvan very, very mobile. And Ashe dies to Vayne, Warwick bottom. And once again, that confidence. He does not really know how much damage Morgana can do. An ignite there and an auto attack would have been enough for a kill. And it wouldn't have been risky either. Lulu was down from that past team fight. And it's weird to say that I'm pointing out these mistakes, but there's a reason for it. You've got to maximize your opportunities. In that case, he could have gone for that kill. There was very little risk involved. He would have taken 1 or 2 tower shots, but that's okay. They would have killed Lulu. He would have backed up. He would have lost a long cooldown and ignite, but that's not a big deal. Now, not going in there was a good decision because God knows what could have happened. TF would have needed to follow up for that to really happen well. But they don't know where anybody is. They don't know what the team fight will be. And this is the end of part 1. This is Studio saying see you in part 2.